Hello guys, welcome to YG Digital World. On today's video, I'll be teaching you how to create simple party flyer design using Photoshop. I remain your host, Agu Joseph. So in order for me to do this, I'll be making use of Photoshop 2020. I have to open the Photoshop application first. On the Photoshop, I'll click on File on the menu, click on New. After clicking on New, the new document panels comes up. I'll have to create a custom size for this design. So this design will be made use on social media. So I'll be using the Instagram handle size for social media, which is in pixels. I'll be using pixels as my unit. So I'll set my width on 1200 in pixels, 1200 in pixels, both of height and width. Then my resolution is in 300. Likewise, I'll leave my color mode in RGB, that is the color format for mobile devices. So after that, I'll leave other settings the way they are. I click on create. So after that, I have to create my background. If you can see, the workspace has opened. So the next thing to do is to create the background. For me to do this, the next thing for me to do is to bring in my resource so that I can create my background. So I'll drag in this into my Photoshop. So I'll hold Alt to scale from middle, from the center. I think this is okay. Left click and drag this way. I check. That is double click or hit your enter key on your keyboard. So I want to make a duplicate of this layer. I'll left click and drag down here. The keyboard shortcut for duplicating a layer is Ctrl J. So I want to flip this over, Ctrl T to transform, or come to edit here, click on free transform. So I'll right click after transforming and flip horizontally. After flipping horizontally, I'll drag it this way and make sure it is positioned properly. I think something like this is okay. Pick my move tool so that I can position this properly. I think this should be okay this way. So after that, I'll clip mask this layer. I've added a mask to it. Here is your mask tool. So just clip mask it. I'll pick my brush or my toolbox here. Pick my brush. Reduce my flow to 50% of flow. Flow enable you to control the strength of your brush. So I've selected 50% for flow. My opacity remains at 100. I right click, select the soft round brush. For those, the soft round brush, I'll click outside. All I have to do is to increase the size of my brush. You can increase the size of your brush using the bracket key beside your P button on your keyboard. Those two bracket key beside your P on your keyboard. So all I have to do is make sure my foreground color is on black, so I can paint over this white place, and make sure your mask layer is selected. So all I have to do now is to brush. If you can see, I'm now trying to create something here. Okay, after doing this, I'll click on my move button. After doing that, the next thing I want to do, I want to bring in another image I'll be using for this design. I'll come over here. Here is the image. I drag it in to my Photoshop, position it somewhere around here. I'll check, change the blending mode to screen. After selecting screen, the next thing to do is to clip mask this layer as well. Pick my brush again. I want to brush out some of these edges. I don't need it. Remember, my flow is on 50%. So after that, I want to add a gradient map. I'll come to my adjustment layer here, click on gradient map, click on the if you notice, please, whenever you add gradient map, make sure your gradient map panel is active, not this clip marks panel here. The gradient map panel is active, so make sure this is selected. So I'll double click on this, come back here, slide this over so that I'll see the effect of the color. I've already created the gradient preset that I'll be using for this project, so I'll just load it. Let me show you my gradient preset. So on this gradient preset I'll be using, this gradient editor is made up of three what do you call it, handles. So this part is called the shadow, the middle part are called the midtones, and the part at the right hand side is called the highlight. So on my shadow, I have to double click on it. This is the color code for the shadow I'm using. This is the color code. I'll check this. For my midtones, this is the color code. Sorry, I'll double click on the handler. This will show you the color code I'm using, and it is positioned at 65 on the gradient editor's on the gradient editor. Then likewise my highlight here, I'll double click on it. This is the color I'm using. This is the color code for the highlight. So after that, these handles at the top are used to check the opacity of the color. I can use this to increase and reduce the opacity. These handles at the top, so I can use it to reduce and increase the opacity of my color. So on this project I'm not doing that. I'm not reducing the opacity. After that, I'll click on OK. The next thing, I'll come here, I'll change my blending mode to soft light. This soft light here, that's what I'll be using for this. So after doing that, I'll come back here, I'll click on this first layer of the two green circles that I merged together, hold shift, click on the other one. After selecting the two layers, right click and click on merge layers. So I've turned both layers to become one single entity. So I will right click and turn this to a smart object, convert it to smart object, come to my filter here, move over to blur gallery, field blur, okay. In my field blur here, if you notice, the image is now blurring out, so I want to blur it to a certain minimum. I think this okay, 28 pixels is okay, or field blur, so I'll click OK. So likewise, I'll come to this other layer where I have my light here, apply the same effect. I think, let me see, okay, I think I have to increase this a little. I think it's okay on 18. It's okay here on 18. After that, I check. The next thing I want to do, I want to transform, I want to increase the size. Come to edit, Ctrl T is the keyboard shortcut. So I'll hold my Alt to scale from the middle. Hold my Alt, scale from the middle. I think that's good for this part. Let me transform it, reduce it a little. Okay, after this, I will minimize these handles and group them. After grouping them, I'll call it BG, which is my background. So the next thing, I'll be bringing in my model image. I'll drag it into my Photoshop, place it over here. After placing it over here, hold my Alt to scale from the middle. So after scaling it up, the next thing is to add depth to this image. For me to do this, I first have to add curve to this. I have to clip max it, make sure that the effect you are applying should be on top the model's image, not on the whole project. So I've clicked on this clip max icon here. So I've added a little bit of brightness to this as well. Okay, after that I want to increase the texture of the green on this. So after adding your curve, the next thing to do is to add your selective colors. So on my selective color, I'll select green here. I'll move my cyan to, I'll reduce my cyan to this. Make sure this is clip max to the ladies layer. So after reducing it, the next thing I'll also reduce my magenta to 100, add my cyan to 100, my yellow to be added, likewise this black should be added a little bit to like +7. I think it's okay this way, and this before and now. Okay, after that I'll come over to my adjustment layer here. I'll add my hues and saturation to, I also click max. I'll increase it a little bit to give it more depth. After adding this, I can also come back to this part, click here, add another curve over here and select green. After selecting green, I'll increase it, thereby I'm adding more tone of green to the layers, to the model's jackets, dress precisely. So I think this is okay for this. After that, I'll close this. I'll pick my brush. After picking my brush, I'll scale down my brush, then brush over this side. Don't forget please, my foreground color is on black so that I can brush on this max layer, which is white. So for you to be able to brush on a white max layer, make sure your foreground color is always on black. So that is it in terms of using working with maxed layers. So after that, I'll brush over here. I don't need some of those tones of green on this, so I'll scale it down, reduce this on the part of my model's body. So after this, I'll pick my move tool, I'll select the layer of the model, click on it, hold shift and click on this other layer at the top, holding shift, click on this, and Ctrl G to group, or you come here and click on this, it will group the whole layer, and you can call this model. So after that, I want to add the information. For me to add information, I have to make a little adjustment here. I add a new layer by clicking on this. Now pick my brush here, hold Alt on your keyboard. I want to pick some tones of color here. Take this, I've selected it. I'll increase the size of my brush using the bracket keys beside my P button on my keyboard. I'll brush over. I'll brush over here. Okay, start brushing over. Click on my move tool. After doing that, the next thing, I still notice something is wrong here. think, let me see, something is wrong here. Okay, let me adjust the position of my background here a little bit. Okay, I think it's good this way. So the next thing I want to do is to adjust the position of this light here. Ctrl T to transform and scale up a little, position it around somewhere here. Okay, double click to check. So after that, I'll close this. The next thing I want to do here is to place my text. So I have my text typed already. So the first thing I have to pick is this text. I'll copy it, pick my text tool in my Photoshop, click here, paste, and check. So the font I'll be using in this project is called Montserrat, one of the font I'll be using. So I'll select regular, select white so that it will be more visible on this background. Reduce my tracking to 0 on my horizontal tracking, scale this down, uncheck this, increase, bring the text closer to each other. Okay, let me increase my tracking a little bit. Okay, so this, I'll make this more bolder than this. Under this type, I'll change it to, I think medium is okay, or let me see, semi bold is okay. Come here, reposition this text around here. Now, in order for you to give your project a proper structure, it is always been advised for designers rather, to always add a guide so that your information will be properly structured. So for me to do this, I'll come to my view here, click on layout, uncheck column, click on margins, set it on 5%, 5%, 5%, 5%, so to be like a perfect square. So after that, I position this, make sure they are structured inside these spaces I just created. So after positioning this, and come here and adjust the position of this model, take it a little bit down. So after that, the next thing I want to do is to bring in this other text here, copy, pick my text tool, left click and paste here. Okay, that's in terms of that. Reduce my tracking to 0. Okay, after that, I'll duplicate this, Ctrl J to duplicate, then Ctrl T to transform, right click and flip vertically. So I'll left click and drag it down holding my shift so that I can move vertically to the middle. So zoom in, Ctrl plus to zoom in. Okay, Control, just hit your enter key, Ctrl H to hide your guide so that I'll be able to see this properly. I think this is okay. So I'll add my layer marks to this layer that I flipped upside down. Add my layer marks, select my gradient here. After selecting it, all I want to do is to add a little bit of gradient to this. Okay, Ctrl Z. I'll come back here, change my gradient to this place, to this black and white here. Left click and drag, so you set it on reverse. I think it's okay this way. So the next thing I'll do, change this to screen. I've lightened it to reduce the opacity a little bit to make it look as if the bottle is sitting on the floor. So that is for that. So Ctrl 0 on your keyboard to zoom perfectly back. So I want to place another text here, which is called drink responsibly. Let's copy it, come back here, click, paste it in here, check, change my foreground color, the color of the text to white rather. So for you, if you don't know where to locate your character panel, come to a window here, you select your character panel. That's for that. So I'll minimize my character panel. Okay, change this to medium, increase tracking a little bit, and in terms of that, increase the size of the text a little. I think this is okay. So I'll Ctrl T to transform, right click on it and flip, that is rotate 90-degree counterclockwise. Okay, after that I check, turn on my guide back, pick my move tool and position this around here. So after that I'll come to my shape tool here, select rectangle. All I have to do is hold my shift, left click and drag. I've gotten this shape is okay. If you notice, my property panels have popped up. For those that can't find their property panel, please go to your window here, scroll over, you see your property panel, you click on it. So on this property panel, I want to add a little curve to this rectangle. I think this is okay. I want to change the color to that of my red. Okay, this is okay as well. After that, I'll position it around somewhere around here. I'll transform it to reduce the size a little bit. Ctrl T, reduce the size a little bit, position it around here. So I'll come back here, pick this 18, pick my text tool, left click outside and paste, check. So now I want to position this 18 plus in the middle of this rectangle. All I have to do is hold my control on my keyboard, move to where I have the rectangle. If you notice, my mouse pointer has changed from the normal finger, that is the hand icon, to this. If you notice, it has a square added to it now. So all I have to do is hold my control and click on this. Now you notice that the layer of my of my rectangle has been selected. So all I have to do, make sure that this layer is selected, come to my move tool here, align vertically, that is align horizontally center and align vertically centered. So if you notice, my text is now positioned in the middle of the rectangle. Ctrl D to deselect, or you come to your selector and click on deselect, that is for that. So Ctrl T now to transform the size of my text. Okay, the next thing I want to do is to add some light effect on this project. So I'll click on this my background layer. All I have to do is to add a layer here, pick my brush tool here, hold Alt here. I want to sample this color here. After sampling the color, after holding Alt, click on the color. I've sampled the color. I'll click here. If you notice, this layer is behind this lady. I added the layer behind the lady. So before I forget, I'll increase my flow back to 100, opacity 100. I'll just click around here. After clicking around here, I'll make a duplicate of this particular layer and drag it above the grouped layer called model and transform this to screen. Can you see what happens now? So same here, I'll add another new layer here. I'll click here. After adding new layer, hold my Alt. I want to sample this color. I think this color is okay. I'll come over here. I'll left click here. After left clicking, I'll duplicate the layer, drag it above this again, above the models layer. If you can see, I'll change the blending mode to screen as well to add that light flare on this project. So after that, I'll also duplicate this layer, pick my move tool and take it to somewhere here, go back here, duplicate this and position it over here as well to add what we call repetition and reading. So after doing that, I also want to add this yellow light flare over here. So I'll come here, select this one, duplicate this, the one behind the models layer, drag it, left click and drag it around somewhere here. I think that's for that. Duplicate the one above the lady group, the model group, duplicate it, Ctrl J, transform it and position it around somewhere here. So to show a light reflection from the background. So that's why I did this. So it's as if the light is coming from the back of the lady, so that you see some of that tones of the light there. So to control this, I will have to reduce the opacity a little bit. I don't need it to be very much for this. That's in terms of this. So in order for me to add depth to this project more, all I have to do, I can come here, hold Alt on my keyboard, click on this new layer option here, click on it, control, after hold Alt, click on create new layer. The new layer panel comes up. You click on you change this name to noise. I want to add a little bit of noise to this project. Change my mode to soft lights, fill with soft light neutral color, 50% gray, checked, click OK. So after this, I'll right click on this, convert it to smart object, come to my filter here, click on noise, add noise. So if you can see now, the noise on this project is much. I want to turn it down. I need to turn it down. It's too much. I add it a little bit of noise to this project. I think this is okay. After this, I'll minimize this and undo. Now, in order for me to add a little bit of depth to this, now in order for me to sharpen this design properly, I have to select the whole text here. I have to select the whole text. Okay, I'm selecting my text, selecting all my text. Okay, all my text layer, I've selected them. I'll group them. I'll call them text. So after that, the next thing I have to do is to drag this group above all. So after that, I'll turn off this group, click on my noise here. After clicking on my noise here, Ctrl Alt Shift E to add to group the whole layer visible. So after making the whole layer visible, that is merging them to become one in one single layer, the next thing I have to do is to come to my filter here, click on sharpen, smart sharpen. So in my smart sharpen here, I want to add I want to reduce this noise, increase this radius a little bit, increase this a little. Let me see how it will look on this project. I think this okay this way. I don't need it to be much on this project, so I'll reduce it a little bit. So I think it's okay like this. I'll click on OK. So after that, After adding this, I'll click on my text. That's in terms of that. So the next thing, I want to add a little depth on this text. So all I have to do is to come to, I want to add a little depth to this music policy layer. Where is it? Okay, here is it. So all I have to do is double click, my layer style panel opens up. All I have to do is add a little bit of shadow, increase the opacity, change the direction, reduce the spread, likewise the size. So reduce the opacity here. So I'm trying to make this more visible. After that, I'll click OK. So that's in terms of that. If I like, I can right click on this by copying this layer, move over to where I have this, right click, that is here, and paste. I'm also adding the same date to this. Door opens at 9 p.m. So that's for that. So that's for that. So I need to add a time to this. For me to add time to this, I'll duplicate this layer, drag it over here. So that's that for this project. Please guys, if you like this, if you enjoyed this video, do well to like this video, share, comment, and if you are new on this channel, don't forget to subscribe, turn on your notification bell to get updates whenever I upload new content. Thank you guys for watching.